rather than saying recorded. So, so how can I help you? How can I make your life easier?
Well, a little bit about, I gave a little bit of an intro on Clubhouse, but I'm an attorney.
Yep.
And I've been an attorney for 23 years. I specialize in employment law. So that means I have been helping both individuals and businesses with issues like wrongful termination, breach of contract, harassment and discrimination, all kinds of issues that come up in the employment context. And I'd say about maybe 10 years ago, I started doing a lot of training for both companies and for business organizations on employment law basics. And I really enjoyed it and was really good for business development. And about 4 years ago, I wrote a program called Creating a Respectful Workplace.
Yeah.
The reason that I did that is I get a lot of calls from people that tell me that they think they're working in a hostile work environment. I don't know if you have that.
Yeah, it's a phrase used here as well.
Yeah, but the problem is an unlawful hostile environment is one where you're being mistreated because of your race or your gender or your national origin or disability. But most times when people call me and they say that they're working in a hostile work environment, it's not because of any one of those things. It's just that they work for an equal opportunity jerk. Yeah. And so I wrote this program because these people, when I have to tell them, I'm sorry, I can't help you, I don't think you have a case, because it's not being done to you because you're a woman or because you're Black. It's just your boss is a jerk. Yeah. I mean, I'll get responses anywhere from people bursting into tears to I've had people yell at me. Yeah. And I understand by the time they reach out to an attorney, they're feeling desperate.
Yeah.
So they don't want to hear that I can't help them and that they're stuck in this terrible situation, but there's really nothing I can do. So I decided to get out in front of the problem. And I wrote a program called Creating a Respectful Workplace to address all kinds of toxic behavior in the workplace, whether it's outright bullying, to gossiping, to undermining, to just disrespectful behaviors toward each other, all due to basically a lack of emotional intelligence on the part of the person who's perpetrating this. So I started doing it for free for different law firms where my friends were partners, just to kind of beta test it. And
brilliant idea.
It was very well received. And I started getting a lot of paid gigs, and I was charging, $3,000 for a day to do training, and it was really taking off. And then COVID hit.
Ouch.
Yeah. And I lost, I had contracts for April and May all lined up. And in 4 short phone calls, I lost almost $20,000 of business.
Ouch.
Because nobody was meeting in person.
Yeah.
Right. And so so at any rate, nobody wanted to hire me or anybody to do in-person training. So I have to pivot and take this program to an online platform. And I am completely clueless as to how to go about doing that.
Okay.
I did do a couple of free Zoom webinars when COVID first hit, because a lot of my employer clients were just flipping out. They didn't know how to what were their legal obligations to protect their employees? What if we have employees with underlying health conditions? What if somebody contracts COVID? Do we have to shut down? And then our government enacted, I'm sure yours did too, but our government enacted a lot of statutes concerning paid sick time and things like that employers just didn't really understand. Everything was rolling out so fast.
Yeah.
So I wrote a program to help employers navigate coronavirus in the workplace, and I offered it for free just because I wanted to be of service. So it's kind of funny, on the fly I wrote this program, and I probably did it 4 times, and I probably presented to about 150 companies. Yeah. And it's led to some interest for me to do other Zoom trainings for them. But I want to take this and really monetize it so that I can sell it across the country. People can either, I can maybe do it live, but eventually I want to get it to where people can license a recorded program, and then I can just make money while I'm sitting on the beach.
Yeah,
and
sounds good.
Doing that.
Okay, so there's a couple of considerations. Amazing, well done for looking at that, knowing the pivot to make, even if you don't know how to implement. Maybe I talked you through a couple of different options. Obviously, you could put it onto anything like a Udemy, a Teachable, all of these pre-built course-based platforms. And the good part is that there's an existing audience, although I would imagine you're quite a bespoke audience, and so probably wouldn't necessarily benefit from that as much as other course creators. If you built it on your own website, for example, which sounds daunting when I say, hey, build it all on your own site, it's not that stressful to do. The thing with that is you control the whole experience, so you can monitor everything. You can look at how it's styled, what it looks like, the feel, even down to whether you want to gamify bits of it to keep that engagement level up, because again, in person is easier to keep people engaged than it is online, and anything we can do to keep people going through. Ultimately, the employer wants people to go through the course. It's our responsibility to make sure they complete and things like that. So what I would suggest, and I don't know where you're at, so I'm going to talk as if you don't have a website, and then if you do, we can bolt it together. I'd recommend building on WordPress. It powers more than a third of the internet. So most sites that you go to probably have some underlying WordPress build. Some definitely look like they're built on WordPress. Others have been really cleverly skinned to not look like they're built on WordPress. Basically, that's just the content management system. So it's all free. They created it. Their tagline is democratizing publishing. So it's to help people to publish. It's an open source free project that got set up a long time ago by a company called Automatic. Guys are great. I talk to the guys at Automatic from time to time. Really nice guys, and lots of people all over the world contribute. So it gets better and better from collective intelligence. So that's the underlying platform that I would suggest building on. And the reason is there's lots of developers building things that you just plug into it. So like, I want to put a course on it. Brilliant. Here's a plugin that allows you to suddenly add courses with relations. Sorry,
can I ask a question? I actually have two websites, one for my law firm and then one for the Respectful Workplace. Mm-hmm. I set up a separate business. So I know that my law firm website, the platform is WordPress. I don't know about the Respectful Workplace. So can I build onto my website even if it's on a different platform?
You can, depending on what the CMS, the content management system is, would determine how complicated it is. And of course, depending what direction you're taking with the site, you might actually find it's actually beneficial then to say, okay, well, maybe we move it to WordPress. What's there? Because it makes the next steps easier. So we can talk through that. What
about platforms like Thinkific and Kajabi?
All they're doing that, like a WordPress own hosted website does the only difference is that they've pre-built that, which is obviously someone building a WordPress for you and putting all the content, all the structure in, like the course build. It's basically the same thing. The only difference is you actually have to pay a licensing fee on going to them. So they package it as your hosting but it's hosting plus their license fee for Kajabi or whatever, and then payment fees. Whereas on your own site, if you had nothing, you'd have to pay a hosting to obviously have the site live. You'd have to pay a developer, or a lot of it you could do yourself. Like, the reality is you don't actually, for a lot of it, if you're anxious about it, having someone do it is a good idea. But the idea is it's designed that you could do it yourself. But then the only thing beyond that is your payment fees. So like, I'd have to check the international fees, but I know for us, we're on card payments and stuff like 1.4% plus 20p, and that's it. So there's nothing else other than the actual transaction on the payment, whereas someone like Kajabi might have a percentage on top of that. So it might be, for example, 5% on every payment, which means instantly they're chipping a piece off. But of course, it's for the convenience. Yeah, and a lot of the platforms do, but it's so well packaged and it's promoted. And of course, they're advertising it, and that money has to come from somewhere. So they have to make money from the people who sign up.
I signed up for what I thought was a free 30-day trial on Thinkific. And I got really busy with my law firm. Some of my cases just were blowing up. So I didn't have a chance to do anything with it in that 30 days. Yeah. Suddenly I have found myself in a $100 per month contract.
Yeah. So I give you context of if you ran on WordPress with your own hosting, so you'd have an upfront build fee for a developer to put it together, but then you would have like I'm just doing. Give me 1 second. I'm actually going to do the conversion to give it to you in real money for you. USD, because the exchange rates all over the place. So instead of paying like $100 to someone like Kajabi or someone like that, $30 the hosting is all it will cost you, obviously plus the transaction fees. But transaction fees you're going to pay no matter where you are, whether on someone else's platform or your own.
Right. Yeah, like for PayPal, I would pay for that.
So
okay.
if you were, so for example, if you use PayPal, I would highly recommend moving from PayPal. Just to trim the fat again, PayPal sits at about 3.4%. If you move to something like Stripe, basically the same service, all handles the card transactions. You can see it, it transfers to bank automatically. So unlike PayPal where you have to go and trigger it, Stripe, it transacts it and puts it to your bank automatically and has a lower transaction fee. So with Stripe, we're 1.4 plus 20p. If we take an international, so if an American pays us, for example, we pay slightly higher because it's an international card transfer, but it's still less than 3%, whereas PayPal's 2.4 plus 20p at the bottom level. So it's quite a big difference. Like, it doesn't sound like it, but once you start doing well, and you've talked about the day rate, when you're putting a course together and selling at scale to people, 1% on that amount of transactions suddenly becomes a lot of money. Yeah,
it does. Okay, and so you would recommend then that I pay somebody to build this onto my website, like maybe my web developer could do it?
Yeah, so you, like, again, dependent on their skill level and if they've had any experience with doing the course side of it, someone who understands it will obviously build it quicker. If you've got a web developer that's on hand that's built stuff for you before, I would suggest, and these would be things just to jot down, you want to build on WordPress. WooCommerce will be the payments part of the platform, but the payments through Stripe, because it will be the cheapest for payment fees. And then you'd look at something, there's different options, but the one that we use and recommend is called LearnDash. And that's for building a whole course in your own platform. You can add certificates and you can add prerequisite that they must have done this course to go to that course, or they must have completed this section to go to the next section. You can have quizzes at the end. There's a lot you can do in there. It could be text, it could be graphics led, it could be video led. So there's loads of, that's down to how you want to build the course. But basically it's got the functionality to do everything. One thing, if you go to your developer, because there's different ways to license, we build a lot of sites with courses in because we deal with a lot of people. So we bulk license. So pricing on licensing can be vastly different. So, for example, we did a thing to help small businesses at the beginning of COVID where we went, £500 will build your site in 5 days. It's got criteria. You must have the content. You must know exactly what the brief is, and it will build it. You give us everything. We build it. It's 5 days, £500. And that was anything, a course, an e-commerce site, anything, as long as it fit the parameter. And we'd include the licensing for everything for the first 12 months because we buy at scale. Like I buy 1,000 licenses for things through the agency, for example. So if they're not somebody who builds courses, of course, they would go to buy an individual license, and that individual license might be £100, $100, for example, for the one license, but we don't pay anywhere near that because obviously we buy at scale. So, it's basic economics that is what it comes down to. So it's worth having the conversation and saying, if I wanted to do this, so don't say I'm going to do this, say I'm looking at this as an option, get a quote in. And if you want to ping it to me and I can give you some feedback on how realistic it is, I'm more than happy to have a look at that and give you an idea.
Okay. What is your email address?
I'll drop it to you. I'll drop you. You should have an email. I've actually just dropped you. You'll have an email telling you we've cancelled this meeting that we're sat in. So I sent it to you literally as you came in the room. It would have just should have landed in your inbox. So, but I'll drop it in the chat here as well if you wanted to copy it out. There you go. So it's nice and easy. It's TG. It's Nomad 9, but it's in the private chat on the right.
Okay. So tell me some more about your company. What do you do?
So we are a digital agency. I'm actually, strangely, I'm actually a fully qualified chef by trade. I went back to uni to get a degree in digital media, built an audience of 3 million people. Being from a family of teachers, built an audience of 3 million people with no budget. And I swore blind I'd never be a teacher. Turns out once you hit 3 million people without spending any money, everyone wants to know how you did it. Became a teacher by default. I just realized I don't like classrooms. I love teaching. I don't like classrooms. So video, audio, courses online, speaking at conferences, love it. Put me in a classroom, hate it. That being said, I've been into college.
About social media? Is that what you teach about?
Yeah. So my part of the business in the agency, so we're a full agency that does everything, but we're primarily focused on content creation, live streaming and social media management. So our focus is to remove that overwhelm factor. A lot of people, it's too much. It's like the most common thing we get is, how do I stay consistent with content? How do I come up with ideas? Where should I post? When should I post? How do I do it? What tools? That's the kind of conversation that happens. Mm-hmm. And for about a decade, I've been using basically the same system for a decade, because it doesn't depend on the tools. It's a system that produces content regularly. It's content that's relevant, and it takes 30 minutes a month to produce all my content. And people are like, what? And then I'll actually quickly do a share. I think I might have sent it to you, because I've been in and out of so many conversations. So excuse if I've already sent it to you, but I'll quickly share it. This is how I do all of my content. So I do my research for what topics I'm going to talk about, and that's based on what other people are already looking for on the internet. So I'm not guessing, creating content and trying to get it in front of people. I'm creating for what people are looking for. So if people are searching for live streaming or video conferencing, which was obviously big at the beginning of COVID, when that happened, we did a comparison of all the different video conferencing softwares so that it was a piece that was relevant to search. We record the video and then we turn it into a blog, social media updates, graphics, can pull the audio out of it, subtitle all our videos, and it all comes from one core piece of video content. And then when we show clients how to do this, if you've got knowledge in your subject area and you can talk about a specific question for 3 minutes, this system works for you. And it works irrespective. I don't need your knowledge, because when you record a video and you send it to me, it's your knowledge in the video. All I'm doing is repurposing it, turning it into the blog, doing the manual work of.
I see.
And then we do it and we publish and do that. So the client literally does 30 minutes of video and then steps away and it just posts for them. So they know after the 30 minutes is recorded, they will show up on social. They will be posting a blog. They will be posting a video. They will be showing up on all the different platforms. And that's.
But you're posting.
Yeah, so we do the post. So we do the direct post. There's certain clients that want to approve everything, and that's fine. Everyone has different process and protocol. And some people, when they first start, want to do that, and then once they see it and they go, okay, well, I'm happy with the first couple of months, then now just keep going and post automatically. So
all that the client does is record a video, and then you take the information in that video, and then you write up a blog.
The way I explain it is, if you record a video, what we're doing is taking the knowledge from your head and productizing it. And then what you see here is like the Amazon of distribution of that knowledge. So that video what you said gets turned into a blog. So we publish that this needs a slight update because there's a couple of platform changes, but it goes to your website, LinkedIn articles. If you're using LinkedIn, you might use Medium, another platform. Again, if you're not using it, we guide people on platforms that will work for their audience. Google My Business, the number of businesses that don't update their Google My Business is outstanding. If you're a blogger on other people's industry sites, so instantly 1 3-minute knowledge segment is in 6 places in written. The video goes on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. You're now in 6 + 3. You're in 9 places in 3 minutes, because we've done the lift and the subtitles and the subtitle part. there's a lot of automation things, and loads of people say go use Rev or Otter or whatever. Trust me, if I could find one that worked, I would love it. It would trim so much fat on our process. But we use native English-speaking people to manually translate everything for every client because it has to be right. And we haven't found anything that's close enough to being accurate. So we do that. And 85% of video is watched with the sound off. So if you don't subtitle it, you're basically saying, I'll serve the 15% audience. So we know that, so we subtitle it.
The videos are watched without sound?
It sounds crazy, but let me just give you 2 quick examples. You're a parent with children who are homeschooling, who are watching TV. If you're sat on the sofa and you want to watch a video, do you play it out loud or do you play it without the sound? Because you don't want the kids to turn around. Play it without sound, right? If you wake up in the middle of the night, you know, maybe you've got a partner and you're in bed and something catches your eye, you scroll your feed, you can't turn the sound off because your partner's still asleep. So there's lots of situations where it obviously makes sense when you stop to think about it. And I'm sure we've all done it. And when you stop someone and say, think about any situation where you haven't got your headphones and you're on a pre-COVID, you were on a bus or a train or, whatever, don't want to play it out loud. You don't want people to know your business, what you're watching. So you'd read the subtitles rather than play it out loud. Right? So it becomes really obvious when you stop to think about it.
I know I always found now I understand why, but I always thought it was weird sometimes if I would watch a YouTube video and there would automatically the subtitles would pop up and I'm like, I never clicked on anything that said I needed closed captioning or anything, so I don't know why I'm getting and it annoys me because I'm just here by myself. I don't need to.
I want it out loud.
So but now I am.
On that point, I don't know because I've been in and out of a lot of rooms, but I've had quite a deep conversation with people on Clubhouse because I deep dive a platform. I need to learn it so I can teach it. I look for what's the opportunity and also what's the flaws. And Clubhouse is great, and I love the fact that it's live or you miss it. I love all of that. But now think about anyone who's hard of hearing. This is a useless app for someone who's hard of hearing because I can't hear it, therefore it's irrelevant. And therefore it's actually by default a discriminatory app.
I am so happy to hear you say that because I have deaf in my family.
Yeah.
And my first career, I was a sign language interpreter. And so that's one of the first things that I thought about because I wanted.
But they could live caption the same way videos do in the audio.
I thought that's exactly what I thought, that there should be that option on there, and it's not.
So I've got it as a product suggestion for the team because obviously we can send stuff into them to say because they're in beta, they're learning, they're getting feedback, they're trying to get it right. But if you don't have anyone who's deaf or no one ever tells you, it's not on your radar.
Right. I know. Speaking of Clubhouse, I'm new to it. I just joined within the last week, and I see several of the same people in certain rooms, right? Yep. And that they're moderators. And then there's several hundred people that can't get a word in edgewise. So how does this become a little bit more equalized? So starting to look like the same 20 people are showing up in the same rooms talking to each other, which, hey, this morning I woke up at 4:30. I couldn't go back to sleep. So I just hopped on and I saw my friend Tony Watley, who was on the stage with you. He's one of the moderators in the chat that we were in. And Grant Cardone was on. And so that's cool, listening to Grant Cardone. Okay, great. But I'm sure like me, a lot of people had questions they would have loved to have asked Grant and to get some value, for their specific thing. And it seems like there's little to no access to that.
There's quite a lot of, so we've got more connection there than we've had in other places because they're spending a lot of time there. They're there for 4, 6, and we've seen there's been a Clubhouse that's run for like 3 days straight because they just changed the moderators over so that they just keep the room live and it's literally kept, hundreds or thousands of people in it. So there's more access than there's been. However, it's complicated because we can't see each other. We can't read the body language. They don't know what someone's going to ask, so they might be wary of who they bring to stage. Also, you can only ever have really 2 people talking. So it's the person who asks a question, and then even the moderators end up talking over each other because you can't see when someone else is going to speak. And there's a few people who have got over this by using like a slow tap on the mic so it flashes on and off to say, I'm going to speak, I'm going to answer this. So like they're learning how to use it, but again, it's a time and capacity issue, right? If Grant Cardone says, I'm going to go on for an hour, there's only so many questions he could answer in that hour anyway. And there's probably thousands of people who would want to ask those questions. But that being said, he's obviously interested in having the conversation because he's there and he's doing it. So therefore, it suggests that on another social platform, his Instagram DMs or something like that, go there and then try another room. Go there and try another room. Like it's always going to be that hosting your own rooms. And if you host a good room, those people want to know why a room is good. So if they see another room suddenly picking traction, you don't have to necessarily go to their room. If you can build enough traction in your own room, people want to come there.
That's what Tony, I've known Tony for almost 3 years now. And he told me the other day, we were talking on Saturday, and he said that I need to start my own room and have it be about my respectful workplace and talk about workplace issues, things that are coming up for people at work. And if you're a business owner, how do you handle these issues as a business owner?
Yeah.
How do you keep people engaged as employees so that, and how do you create corporate culture so that you have people that love working where they work? And
the answer to that's actually really easy. Care about them and show them that you care. Like we did, like I've had a team. So when I went from chefing to digital media, I built a team of 40 18 to 24-year-olds. And anyone would tell you that's the hardest age range to work with, to motivate, to keep engaged. Why is it then, as an entrepreneur setting up a brand new brand from scratch, you could bring 40 18 to 24-year-olds in, keep them engaged. They would sort all their own problems. They would show up to every meeting. They would cover each other's shifts. And you had 100% team retention over 2 years. Exactly that. Team, reward, and showing that you care. And they did the rest. Like I couldn't have done it on my own. So it's showing them. And that's it. Like I accidentally fell into teaching company culture. And I've been into like the BBC in Australia and worked with Microsoft, people like that to consult, because in corporate, they always get it wrong because it gets too much red tape. We can't do this. We can't do that. And I'm like, when did you last have a team meeting? And team rather than staff. And there's so much like red tape in it.
Years ago, I worked for a mid-sized law firm. I've had my own practice for 18 years now, but I used to work for a law firm downtown. And every year we would have a retreat for the attorneys. So the partners and the associates we'd go up to the mountains for 3 days and whiteboard all this stuff and what have you. And I'll never forget one of the partners. First of all, one of there were two named partners, the senior partners. One of them was such a nasty narcissist, and he almost never spoke to me. Like I would almost be invisible in the room. Like, and it was the only time in my life I had migraines because it was such a horrible place to work. But it was good money and it was good experience. I just wanted to get my 2 years of experience there, and I knew I'd be going out on my own. But we're at the retreat, and one of the partners complained that his secretary wanted to get her own printer. Well, the way that the office was set up, everything was all wired and what have you, but her desk, his office was way on one end of the hall, and the printer was on the other end. And she wasn't printing massive amounts of stuff that she needed this giant machine. It was just a desktop printer, right?
Yeah.
And he said, he goes, and that's going to cost $300. And I knew how much money he made, and I blurted out, I was only there for like 4 months. I blurted out, "Are you fucking kidding me?" The partners, and everybody was like, "Oh," the air just left the room. And I didn't even realize it because I was furious at him. And I'm like, she works her ass off for you, and you're going to bitch about $300 to make her feel like she's valued and save her time and wear and tear on her feet, and she's wearing high heels because God forbid we wear flats around here. It's not professional enough. And the senior partner who never spoke to me after that, he loved me. And I found out the reason, and I asked the other partner, like, why is Bruce starting to talk to me? It's kind of weird. And he said, because he developed a lot of respect for you. That number one, you spoke your mind, but that you stood up for the staff. And just, it really like made him take another look at me. And ever since then, he would come into my office if there was a problem with an employee. He would come and talk to me and ask me for my opinion about it. Yeah. And I always started with, do you care about this person? Do you want them to succeed? You know,
it's reframing it and making them look from a different angle. Exactly. And I think it's brilliant that now that's all translating back to like the course and creating a workplace and that kind of thing. And I really do think the other thing is that no one really talks about is you can put your course on Thinkific, but if you're going to advertise it, you're going to put money behind it, the time, effort and energy to get people on the course. Why do you want them spending 4 hours on someone else's website? You want them on yours because it helps Google understand that people appreciate your website based on the time they spend on it. It doesn't even make sense to me why anyone puts their courses elsewhere. Like having a course there for discoverability, like a lower level course so they can find you, go through an easy course and they go, what else have you got? And come to your website. Brilliant. But I would never put big, long form, strong content somewhere else. It just doesn't make sense because like Udemy does like $10 sale. You might have a $1,000 course, but their terms and conditions say they can sell it for $10 in their sale. So you have no control over that when they decide to. Thinkific's a bit different because you're hiring the platform and putting your stuff there. So they're all different. But if you own it on your own website, you have full control. And that's I think what it boils down to. I can drop you an email. I'm conscious of the time because I've got to jump and do something else.
I'm sorry, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
I can drop you the bits that we talked about, and I can also drop you the recording in case you wanted to recap on any of the bits that we talked about. I'm super conscious to try and make sure that I've given you as much as possible. I'll send you the detail of how to do that system as well and how it works. And I've got a pre-written email that shows how it works, but it's a sales email, so it does have like the pricing and stuff on, but it shows you how it breaks down so that you can follow that steps process through and see this video then goes to this, and it's then text-based as well as image-based. So I can forward that to you and you can have a look at that. Because we teach this, it's a course we run. And we teach it. We did in person, heaven forbid, pre-COVID, 6-hour workshops where we taught this. And off the back, people understand it. Some people go and do it. Some people don't from courses. And then other people say, I know it and I don't want to do it. Do it for me. And obviously we do it for ourselves and we do it for clients. So if it's a good fit or you know anyone else that it's a good fit for, by all means, feel free to share the graphic and put people in touch. Or if it's relevant to you, obviously, we're happy to have a conversation. But by all means, take the system and run with it because it works.
And one last question. Do you think I'm making it too complicated right now? I mean, I'm thinking to just at least get this off the ground so I can start making money off of this. I've got a camera on the top of my computer here. I have to get better at looking at that and not at the screen. But like, I don't need to go out and buy all kinds of expensive equipment. I can just get this started with, very high quality PowerPoint slides and then myself.
Start where you are and then add in content. To give you context, this is going to get a bit weird, but as I do this ring light that I'm currently using here and the stand, which has like a phone holder and stuff for when I record videos, it's like £30, so like under $50. And that's probably as complicated as you need to get. If you're ever going to invest in anything, audio would always come first. Because people will watch something with good audio, but they won't listen to a really good video with terrible audio. It's always that way. So.
I've seen that, and it's horrible. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
No worries. It's been a pleasure.
And if there's ever anything that I can do to help you, I don't know, but if you need any connections here in the US, anything that...
Ways open to introductions and like this. So like this system, we've actually got clients in America because it's a very different mindset in America for like people investing into their business, and their content is very, very different. And like I said, this system works for anyone. Anyone who's got a level of knowledge, we want this in front of as many people as possible. And it's nothing to do with money in our businesses. This is a system we teach and they can run with, or we can do it for them. And then we've got people at like public sector government kind of level that just see it and they go, I'll take the whole lot. Because of course in their sector, the finances are relevant, right? But in some sectors it is more relevant. And we say, start at the bottom, start with the low level stuff and see how it works, understand it, and then look at the other stuff. So I want to just help as many people with this as possible.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And you're a sweetheart.
No worries.
I hope to see you in Clubhouse sometimes.
I'm sure you will. Take care. Have an amazing day.
You too.
See you soon.
Stay safe and healthy.
Will do. You too. Take care.
I have a big surge. Good luck with all of that. We're not doing too great over here either.
I've got a chest freezer full of food and we're stocked up, so I don't even need to leave now. So we're all good.
Way to do it. Okay. Take care.
Take care.